Ahaz was 20 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 16 years. He did not do what was pleasing in the sight of the Lord. Instead, he followed the example of the kings of Israel. He cast metal images for the worship of Baal. He offered sacrifices and burned incense at the pagan shrines and on the hills, and under every green tree. He offered sacrifices in the valley of Ben Hinnom, even sacrificing his own sons in the fire. As a result of all this, the Lord permitted the king of Aram to defeat Ahaz and carry away many of his people to Damascus. In one day, Pekah, the king of Israel, killed 120,000 of Judah's soldiers, because they had forsaken the God of their ancestors. They also captured 200,000 women and children from Judah. However, the Lord sent Oded, the prophet, to meet the conquering army, threatening them with the Lord's anger for kidnapping their brothers' families. Alarmed, the Israelites gave the captives food and drink, and dressed their wounds with olive oil. They also provided them with clothing and sandals to wear. They put those who were weak on donkeys, and took all the prisoners back to their own people in Jericho, the city of palms. Assyria was growing stronger and threatening the surrounding nations. Israel and Aram decided to form an alliance against Assyria, and they tried to force Judah to join them. But Ahaz refused. So they joined forces to attack Jerusalem. The news reached the royal court of Judah, and the king and his people trembled with fear, like trees shaking in a storm. Then the Lord said to the prophet Isaiah,
"Take your son and go out to meet King Ahaz. Tell him to stop worrying. And that King Rezin and King Pekah are like two burned-out embers, who will soon burn out. Their plans to breach Jerusalem's walls, overthrow him, and install the son of Tabeel as a puppet ruler, will amount to nothing."
In his earlier message, the Lord declared that the leaders of the two nations are simply their kings. However, here God implies that, for Ahaz, the true head is God himself, if Ahaz chooses to trust and believe in him.
Ahaz, ask the Lord your God for a sign of confirmation that this invasion will never take place. Make the sign as difficult as you want, as high as heaven, or as deep as the place of the dead.
But the king refused.
"No, I will not test the Lord like that."
Then Isaiah said,
"Isn't it enough to exhaust human patience? Must you exhaust the patience of my God as well? The Lord himself will give you the sign. Look, the virgin will conceive a child. She will give birth to a son and will call him Emmanuel, which means God is with us. Before this child is old enough to choose what is right and reject what is wrong. That is, before he is old enough to eat yogurt and honey. The lands of the two kings you fear so much will both be deserted. Then the Lord will bring things on you, your nation, and your family, unlike anything since Israel broke away from Judah. He will bring the king of Assyria upon you."
Then Ahaz took the silver and gold from the temple and the palace treasury, and sent it as a payment to King Tiglath-Pileser of Assyria, along with this message:
"I am your servant and your vassal. Come up and rescue me from the attacking armies of Aram and Israel."
So the king of Assyria attacked the Aramean capital of Damascus, and led its population away as captives, resettling them in Keilah. He also killed King Rezin. At that time King Ahaz of Judah asked the king of Assyria for help. the armies of Edom had again invaded Judah and taken captives. And the Philistines had raided towns located in the foothills of Judah and in the Negev of Judah. The Lord was humbling Judah because of King Ahaz, for he had encouraged his people to sin, and had been utterly unfaithful to the Lord. King Ahaz went to Damascus to meet with King Tiglath-Pileser of Assyria. While he was there, he saw an altar, and took special note of it. Then he sent a model of the altar, along with its design in full detail, to Uriah the priest in Jerusalem. Uriah followed the king's instructions and built an altar just like it, and it was ready before the king returned from Damascus. When the king returned, he made offerings on it to the gods of Damascus who had defeated him, for he said,
"Since these gods helped the kings of Aram, they will help me too, if I sacrifice to them."
Then King Ahaz moved the old bronze altar from its place in front of the Lord's temple, and placed it on the north side of the new altar. He commanded Uriah the priest,
"Use the new altar for the offerings of the king and of the people, while the bronze altar will be for my personal use only."
But when King Tiglath-Pileser of Assyria arrived, he attacked Ahaz instead of helping him. Ahaz took valuable items from the Lord's temple, the royal palace, and from the homes of his officials and gave them to the king of Assyria as tribute. In deference to the king of Assyria, he also removed the canopy that had been constructed inside the palace for use on the Sabbath day, as well as the king's outer entrance to the temple of the Lord. Then the king removed the side panels and basins from the portable water carts. He also removed the great bronze basin, called the sea, from the backs of the bronze oxen, and placed it on the stone pavement. Later, Ahaz shut the doors of the Lord's temple, so that no one could worship there. He set up altars to pagan gods in every corner of Jerusalem. He made pagan shrines in all the towns of Judah for offering sacrifices to other gods. In this way, he aroused the anger of the Lord, the God of his ancestors. When Ahaz died, he was buried in Jerusalem, but not in the royal cemetery of the kings of Judah. Then his son Hezekiah became the next king.